We are supposed to start Chef from today, right? But before that, let us understand why we need this, right? Because if that is clear, then rest is just applying Chef. Okay, fine. Let me speak about the delivery pipeline, right? So one thing which we need to understand as a DevOps engineer is your job is to build or maintain delivery pipeline. This is the only use case which you have in DevOps, right? But the challenge over here is delivery pipeline might change from technology to technology, company to company, right? Even in the same technology, there might be more than one way of really achieving this. All right. So what do I mean by delivery pipeline? So we have developers writing the code for us in Git, right? They store it in the Git. We need to build a package out of it, right? And then we need to take that package and build dev environments, QA environments, or performance environment. You name it. There are many environments and staging environments, right? And then we need to deploy whatever has been packaged onto our production server. Okay. So developers write the code, they store the code, or they submit the code, or they commit the code. All the terminologies are same, but the technical terminologies people refer it as committing. They commit the code. All right. They commit the code to the Git, and from there on, the music starts for us. That's where we are in business. All right. So the moment code is submitted into Git, right, we try to build the package, and then once the package is ready, we need to create different environments for different processes in your company, right? Yeah. And when I say dev environment, when I say QA environment, when I say performance staging, this could be more or this could be less. Okay, right? How many environments is completely your company's process? All right. Now, what do I refer to this environment? What do I mean by these environments? Right. So, assuming that we are building Book My Show, right? And I want to give a QA environment. What does it mean? Book My Show is a website. So for my testers, I should be able to give them a website with Book My Show hosted. Yes or no? Yes. The thing that changes is I'm speaking about Book My Show, so I have to host Book My Show. Tomorrow your company might be working on insurance project, then you will be hosting insurance project. Your company is hosting something else, you have to host that. Now, basically, environmental creation is the area which we need to really worry about now, right? So this is the area of our focus. I am not worrying about Git. I am not worrying about building a package out of it. In Chef or in any of these tools which I speak for these 2 weeks, my assumption is you already have a package. You already have a package, all right? And now you need to create environments. And when I said I need to create environments, yesterday in the demo also I've discussed about it. There are two assumptions. One is, do you need to create environment, right? Obviously you need to create environment. And when you create environment, do you expect or your company is expecting you to create machines as well? Okay, this could be case. So when I say create machines, I'm not speaking about hardware machines. I might be speaking about virtual machines. I might be speaking about cloud environments, right? So if this is the case, then we need infra provisioning. and I am not discussing about it. Okay, because Chef is definitely not an infra provisioning tool. Okay. Now we start Chef when we have OS installed and system ready. When I say ready, it is network. It has some IP address. It has some host name, right? We can access into that system. That's where we start Chef. Am I clear on this? Yeah. Now we have to take that system, and in that system we have to basically system or systems. It could be one or more than one, right? In that we have to create our dev environments, QA environments, which is nothing but hosting your website or hosting your application. When I say I want to host the application, right? Okay. So let me tell this for you. Assuming our application is Java based, right? What will typical steps be? First step for any Java based application is install Java. All right. Okay, good. And then to host the Java application, you might need to install some app server, something like Tomcat, JBoss, Glassfish, something like that. And then the Java code which is written by your developer, from that you have a package, right? Copy the package to app server. These are typical steps, right? So this part, okay, of making your plain operating system, all right, into some application, right, into some portion of your application or some portion of your architecture is called as configuration management, right? So for example, I give you a Linux machine and I ask you to make it a FTP server. What will your steps be? I am even asking this question to the people who don't know Linux. Linux రాదు కాబట్టి నాకు కాదు. You have never worked on Linux. My question is still valid. I have given you a Linux machine and I have asked you to make it an FTP server. What will you do? You will Google for it. You will get some 10 or 11 Linux commands. All right. So for the people who know Linux, they might directly execute. For you, you have just one extra step of Googling it. Right. And now, after that, you will execute those commands and your system will act as a FTP server. Agreed? Yes. I give you a Windows system and I ask you to enable IIS server. You don't know how to do that. Good. That's fine. Google it. You will get the steps. Do it. Will IIS server be enabled? Yes. So I'm not here assuming that you know Linux. I'm assuming you know Google, which I definitely can make an assumption on. Yes or no? Google తెలియని ఎవరు ఉన్నారా క్లాస్లో? No, right? Everyone knows how to search Google, right? That's the only assumption I'm making. I'm not assuming you are on any other skill, right? So for any deployment which we make or any installation which we are doing, will we get steps? Yes or no? Yeah. But there is a small important thing which you need to always understand. Whenever you are searching in DevOps, please search command line way. Am I clear on this? We are not doing any installations by double clicking on it. No. First step which you need to find out is a command line way. So for example, let me find out some steps, right? So installing, okay, something like this. Tomcat 7 on Ubuntu 14. I'm not worried about what it is, right? So are you seeing the steps? Something in black? These are all the commands, right? So if you if you have commands like this for everything which you do, right? That's what I want you to pick up. I am not expecting you to double click, enter passwords in between a UI way. No. If you are speaking about a way where you enter it in UI, right? Double click it. We are not speaking about that. I'm speaking about a completely command line way, right? So probably what I'll do is I'll write all of these command lines and I'll put it in my notepad or somewhere so that I will have a reference of it, right? That is the first requirement. So first requirement is not Linux knowledge. First requirement is this, right? For any activities, you will get these kind of stuff. Remember, we are not going to do any UI based automation. We are not doing test automations over here. And we are neither are we learning RPA or Selenium. So UI is ruled out. For me, it is always, when I say automation, I'm speaking about command line automation. Yeah. And for this Google search, do I need to know Linux? No. That's the whole point. So am I clear on this? The first prerequisite is not Linux. First prerequisite is command line. Yeah. So even if I have to do it on a Windows server, I will search for the command line options of Windows. How do I install Tomcat on Windows using command line or using PowerShell? That's it. This is what we do. All right. Okay. Now forget about these steps. I'm not worried about those steps. So whenever you search command lines, what you will get? You will get some commands. Yes or no? Yeah. This is what we execute to make it a some application to be deployed. Wonderful. Right. Now, is this rocket science? Definitely not. Yeah. Is there no other way to automate it? There are many ways. Then why I have to deal with chef? Right? Is the industry not automating them today? Yes, they are automating. Okay. So the way they automate is they write shell scripts, or if you are in one Windows world, you might be writing PowerShell scripts, which is a decent way. There is no doubt about it. Right. So you have a shell or a PowerShell way already. Then why do you need to learn a new tool called as chef? So that's the first question. If I have shell, why chef now? Or let me put this question in a different way. Why configuration management? Yeah. So till this part, are we clear? Now, if I say that your application is Python application, what will you do? You will search Google on how to basically deploy a Python application on some operating system. You will get the command line steps, and that is what you are supposed to do. All right. If you go into some of the companies, you even have deployment guides where they will basically tell you this is how we deploy our application and this is how we want you to do. Fine, good, right? That's it. Now our job is to automate that, right? And I said that there is already shell script which is automating. Then what is an extra benefit which I am giving? Yeah, that is the first thing which I need to understand, right? So if I have shell script or PowerShell script, why do I need to search or install Chef and make my life complicated? Why can't I use the scripts? Right? Okay. Now, till this point, do we have any questions? Okay. I don't make any assumptions. I am not assuming you to be a Linux professionals also. But remember me, today you might not be a Linux professional, but by the time you finish your course, you should be having hands-on experience on Linux. You cannot go to the interview without a Linux knowledge, right? Because day in and day out we'll be working too much on Linux, and trust me, it is not difficult. If you think it is difficult, right, just start using Windows from command line only. You will find the same difficulty on Microsoft Windows also, because it is not Linux, it is the command line what is haunting you. Yeah. Okay. Screen got struck. To be very serious, I'm not changing anything on the screen. Yeah. Is it clear now, Suresh? Uh, okay. Fine. So is this an important question? Right. So what people do in shell scripts is, you got all of these commands, right? 10, 20, 30, 40, 100, whatever it is. They write all of this in one file, right? And they call that as a shell script. They will have some extra command line commands to be written, but whatever it is, theoretically, it is nothing but all of your commands written in one file. Okay, wonderful. Now, what is the problem with that? Okay, I'll answer that at the last. Let me speak only about what I'm speaking. I'll take last 10 minutes to answer any of your questions. I don't mind. But in the class, I don't want any other questions. Anything about whatever I've spoken till now, you can ask me. All right. Okay. So I Google for the commands. I write all of them in one notepad, and then I make a file out of it. That is what you do in shell scripts. All right. So what is the problem with that? The problem with shell scripting is, let us assume I have two engineers, and for the two engineers, I have given the same work. All right. And I have asked them to write the shell script. The problem is, both of them might come up with their own way, and two shell scripts for doing the same activity will not look the same. For example, you say create a file. One person might use a touch command. The other person might use something called as redirection. Both are achieving the same thing, but if you look at the script, they look completely different. So it depends on the person's knowledge, right? One might write in one way, the other one might write in a other way. So what is the problem with that? Let it be. The problem with that is, in the long term, they become unmaintainable. If you ask engineer to fix someone else's script, he finds it to be struggling. It is not that easy. That's the first problem. And next problem is, first is readability. Okay, you cannot make an assumption that since one person knows shell scripting, if you hand over any shell script, he'll be able to make out, because if he has to write it, he might write it in a different way. Second stuff, I write the shell script for installing whatever Java or Python or whatever it is. Okay, I run it for the second time. Is it guaranteed that it will work on the same machine? So maybe, or it might not. The problem is, rerun of the scripts. I am not saying will not, I will say might not give same results. You have written a script to install Java. I rerun the script on the machine where Java is present. It might run or it might fail. If it is working, it is intelligence of the person who has written the script. If it is not working, he has missed it out. So how can I fix this? Right now, basically this will hit you a lot. Okay, now if I am saying I would go for configuration management as a solution for the above two problems, so obviously what it should have, it should be readable, right? And whenever you try to write a script, whether you run it for one time or rerun the script, it should always give you the same result. That's what configuration management is all about, right? If I give a configuration management work to two of my engineers, 80% of the stuff looks same. All right, so we are not hitting on readability. Second point, whether you run the script for one time or multiple times, the result is always the same. All right, so these two are inbuilt properties of configuration management. So the first one, these codes or whatever you write are readable and maintainable. Simple. And running the scripts as many times as you want. Will give same results I'll not say in all cases, in majority of the cases. So now which one is better? That's the reason why organization wants to move to configuration management, right? So they want some script which is readable, so that even if new engineer joins, if he has a knowledge on that configuration management, he will be able to work on it. Second one, whether you run the script for the first time or nth time, the result is always the same. So this functionality or this property is called as idempotence. Rerunning of the script giving you the same result is called as chef is idempotence and shell scripting is not, right? I will not say all of chef, but majority of the chef. 90% of what we do in chef is idempotence, right? 10% is not. And let us not worry about the 10%. Let us worry about the 90% benefit which we are getting. Okay, fine. Now we clear on this? Yeah. Now one most interesting thing. All right. So let us assume that you are a team lead, and in your team there are two engineers who have joined. One person is fresher, right? The other person is experienced approximately 6 or 7 years. You have to assign them work, right? To the fresher, while assigning the work, will you tell what has to be done or how it has to be done? To the fresher, will you tell how the work has to be done or what has to be done? He is not experienced, so obviously you have to tell how the work has to be done. Now let me take the other scenario. Now you are dealing with a person who is 6 years experienced almost in the same work which you are doing. Now to this person, will you tell how the work has to be done or what has to be done? Right? Exactly, that's the difference between shell script and a chef script. In shell, you always tell how it has to be done. So this is called as functional or procedural way of scripting. Okay, here you have to always tell how it has to be done, but over here you will not tell how, you will tell what has to be done. This is called as declarative. So we don't write procedural scripts, we write declarative scripts. That's the third point. Okay, so to the chef you will never tell how to do the things, because it knows how to do the things. The only thing which you will ask is what is that you want. All right, how is what you do in shell, right? When I am saying what, it is in majority of the cases, not all. Am I clear on this? Right? So let me tell you a small example of this. Okay, declarative versus procedural. What would the difference be? Okay, so for the people who, if I am telling it in procedural, which is like shell scripting, I'll basically write something like this: create a file using touch command, okay, on path or at, okay, some location where log, okay, test dot log. Yes, you are telling what has to be done, you are telling how it has to be done. Now let me tell you the other side of the story. If I am speaking declarative, I will tell that I want a file at, right, or else I want a file which is var log test dot log. If you want to delete the file, you will say I don't want a file, but over there you will tell that I want you to delete the file which is present at that location using rm command. Are you seeing the difference? Yes, exactly. This is the difference between writing a shell script and writing a chef script. That's the whole idea. So the second one is obviously the best way, right? Because majority of the cases will be solved, right? Similarly, you want to download some application, download something from the internet. Okay, so if it is in declarative, you would tell that download it from the internet from this URL using this command, wget or curl or whatever it is. Okay, over here you will say that get me the file from remote location, and the location is this. How you get it, whether you use wget curl, I am not interested. All right. Okay, create a user using add user command is what you tell in procedural way. I want a user called as qt. That's what you tell in chef. I'm not worried about how you do it. So are these statements making it better? Yes. So in chef, we will always focus on the other side of the things, which is writing it declarative. Am I clear on this? Right. So now let me look at this question first. Where are questions coming from? I think I've seen this, but again the question has popped up. Yeah. Okay. Now then. So if I look at it, I have to create dev environments, test environments, or whatever environments. And when I am saying environments, I am playing with servers. I'm playing with servers. Yes or no? Right? So you will have multiple servers where you need to create these environments. All right? Okay, good. These are the machines where you need to deploy your applications. All right? Okay. And now, for configuration management, we will have one machine of our own. Yeah. So for executing chef, right? So we will have one kind of server. Now, on these machines, I need to do some activity. Yes or no? I need to basically, what is that activity? I have given one example. Make it ready for to be a Java Tomcat application. Make it ready to be a web application. Make it ready to be a FTP server. Whatever it is. So all of these are the steps which you need to perform on that machines. Now, how do I do that? I'll call this as configuration management server. All right. And over here you have your machines where you have to basically do the operations. All right. These are your production servers, test servers, or dev servers, QA servers, you name it. And these are generally referred as nodes. All right. All the machines where you want chef to do the work, we will refer it as nodes. So we have chef server and we have some nodes, or any configuration management server. This is an architecture. Even if you go to the Puppet, even if you go to the Ansible, Salt, everything works in this way. Any configuration management works in this mode. Now we have a node and we have a server. Who will speak first? Okay, both of them can speak. There is no problem in that, right? So one thing which can happen is server speaks with node. All right, this is the first initiation. Server initiates the communication, right? Or the other thing is your node speaks with, so both of them are valid, right? Anything can happen. If you have two people who can start the conversation, any one of them can start, right? Okay. Now basically in your configuration management, if configuration management server is speaking with the nodes, right, first to initiate communication or to initiate configuration deployment, this model is called as okay. On the other way around, if node is asking your server, right, then it becomes full. So let us just simulate the conversation. How will it sound like when server is speaking with to the node first. It will tell that, hi, I have the following configurations to be applied. Am I clear? Server will tell to the node, I have the following configuration which you have to apply onto your system. That is how the push configuration looks like. Whereas the pull will be in a different way. In the pull, node will ask, do I have any configurations which you want me to apply? Are you seeing the difference? In the node asks the server saying that, do you have any configuration which I need to apply right now? Okay. So the answer could be yes, you have, or no, you don't. Right? If yes, nodes will do the work. Right? If no, they'll keep quiet. So am I clear on this? And when we speak of push, this is what Ansible does. And pull is what Chef does. In Chef, the communication is from node to server, not server to node. Remember that. Right? Okay. So I'm not interested in push anymore. Right? Push is for Ansible. And let us worry about pull models. So I have this machine, and this machine needs to speak to the server. Now, what do you think is required for that to happen? For node to communicate with server, what do you think is required? What is the first thing? Node should know the server, right? Yeah? Okay. That's the first thing. And now, my node is a Windows machine. Will Windows machine automatically know that it has to speak to the server? Is your Windows machine speaking to some server? No. Then what is the specialty of this node? Why? How can it speak to the node then? Are you getting my context? So is your laptop speaking with some server automatically? Now I'm trying to tell that there is this node needs to speak with some Chef server or configuration management server. Will it happen automatically? No. So there should be something in that machine which is doing that, right? Yeah. And that something is called as agent. So on the nodes, we install agents. So star for us is agent. Okay. So on every nodes, we need to install these agents, and these agents will be responsible for communication to the configuration management server. Am I clear on this? Yeah. And now, whenever configuration management servers replies back saying that yes, you have to do the work, it is the agent who does the work. So in Chef, we have actually two installations, or any pull based model will have a bare minimum two installations. One is the server installation, the other one is the agent installation on your machines. Right? You need to install agents on your servers. Am I clear on this? So in Chef, we are going to install agents. Okay. Now let me have the same stuff over here. So on all of our nodes, I have agents, and this agent is aware of your server. The agent give me server URL also. Right? This agent is responsible for communication. Right. Now, node will ask the server, but when? Node speaks with server. Wonderful. There is no doubt about it. But when should it speak? There is no right time. So that's why what configuration management servers initially do there is, by default, they speak every half an hour. If you want, you can change that. Right? By default, they will speak once in a half an hour. So every half an hour, your node asks the server, do I have anything to be applied? That's how the things work. But we can change that. In some companies, we set it to 24 hours. In some companies, we might set it to 5 minutes. It depends on what you are trying to do. Right? But nodes speak with server with the help of agent in a periodic manner. By default, that is 30 minutes. It could be less, it could be more, right? But default value is 30. So let us stick to default values over here. How to change that values? Let us worry when we start really digging into Chef. Am I clear on this? So now let us assume that this agent has asked the question at 7 o'clock, and the default time is what? Half an hour. So the next question will be at 7:30, right? So now in the configuration management, what you have done is you have written some script. Okay, let us assume that this is a script. You have written a new script and uploaded the script, and you have done this work at 7:15. Okay, and this script you want to apply to this node. When will it be applied? 7:30, because last time was at 7, and the next time will be in a half an hour. All right, so from 7:15 to 7:30, right, you already have a script, right? And as a user, your assumption is whatever I have written in that script, let us assume that the script is all about making it as a FTP server, right? Before executing that script, will it be FTP server? No. So from 7:15 to 7:30, what is the state? You are expecting that that machine is a FTP server, but it is not. It will become a FTP server probably at 7:31 or 7:32, right? So there is a time basically when you expect something and when there is something else on this machine. Yes or no, right? And that is called as configuration drift. That is called as, what is configuration drift? The something which you will observe over here from 7:15 to 7:30. You are expecting that machine to be a FTP server, but it is not. It will become a FTP server after 7:30, because that's when it will speak. That's the whole point. So from 7:15 to 7:32, you have written something, but it is not yet applied. That situation where you have difference between what you want and what is reality is called as configuration drift. Am I clear on this? Yeah. Okay. So in Chef or in push based models, and we are not worried, but in pull based models, we need to install agents, right? And agents speak or communicate, whatever you call it, communicate periodically, right? The default is 30 minutes. All right. The same holds good for Chef and Puppet, right? We are not speaking about Puppet, but Puppet also works in the same way. Puppet also works in the same way. Puppet is also a pull based tool. It will also have agents. The default time there also is half an hour, right? Now they are trying to become push based model, right? Whatever it is, right? Fine. So till this point, let me see if I have any questions. Can you say where exactly Chef is used? Actually, I have started my class from there itself. I think if you have joined late, let me try to quickly reiterate. Chef will start its work when you want to create environments. Let it be test environment, let it be dev environment, let it be staging, production, whatever it is. All right. So that's where Chef starts. But Chef or any configuration management will have an expectation that your systems are in place. You already have operating systems with IP addresses working on it. That's where you use Chef, or that's where you use any configuration management for the purpose. So even for the Ansible, the use case is same, but how Ansible works is different. So what we achieve basically with respect to Ansible or Chef is creating environments, where infra is already present. When I say infra is nothing but your machines, right? Because for applications, the only infrastructure which we need is on a hardware node is machines. Installing software based configurations is these tools jobs. All right. Can we configure push in? There is a hack around here, but it is not recommended by Chef also. Right? Chef has something called as push job server, right? But not many use it. Not many use it, right? If you want to go to push, there is a better tool for that, Ansible. Go to the Ansible. Chef is not designed for that, right? Chef is designed for pull, and push doesn't work effectively. Yeah. You want to see me? Yeah. Let us take it on offline, Rehan. Yeah. Okay. So basically, can we configure this push method? I said that yeah, you can do that, but that is a workaround. That is not a straightforward solution for Chef. And I don't want to pull the script or okay. So basically, what you are asking is for push, if I understand your question correctly. So Chef is not a push based model. Unfortunately, you have to think of something else, right? Chef push jobs is not a full fledged Ansible, right? Ansible works at a next level. Okay. Now there was one thing. What ports are required between server to node? We'll worry about that later. All right. So obviously you will require 22. Obviously you will require 22. But it is a TCP based communication. Let us not really worry about the ports. Right. It will use the standard port itself. Okay. Fine then. So is this clear? Yeah. Okay. Now this is the basic configuration management model, right? So here we are doing pull based. So we will install agent on every node. We need to have a server. All right. So let us just have a look at a roadmap, and then let us basically see what is it. So for working on Chef, I need certain prereqs on your machine. First thing is, okay, when I say OS, okay, any Linux or Mac, wonderful, right? But majority of the people use Windows. And if you are using Windows, I'm writing 7, but I don't recommend 7 in any way. I want all of you to move to 10 as much quickly as possible, right? Because even there are no more service packs and there are some issues around it. 8, no way. We cannot work on 8. Yeah. You can work to some extent, but will not be able to. So if you are working on Windows, this is what we do. And one more thing which I need is I require everyone over here to have a AWS free tier account. If you don't like AWS, have it on any cloud. I am not worried. I need Linux machines. I need 3 or 4 Linux machines to practice this stuff, right? So you have at least 4 days of time. By the time I would expect you to have your cloud accounts, right? Any cloud is fine for me. The only reason why I use cloud is I want some Linux machines, right? That's the reason. I'll be using AWS in the class. All right. And apart from that, we need to do some installations. All right. The installations are we meet when it comes to the software based installations, right? And these are specifically required for Windows itself, right? In Mac, you already have it. In Linux, you already have it. So I need something called as Git for Windows. Yes. And these are my prerequisites. And one more thing, this is required for everyone. This is Visual Studio Code. Yeah. Now, let me quickly show how to install those softwares easily on Windows systems. Right. So I want Git for in Windows and Visual Studio Code to be installed. What is the way which we follow generally? We'll go to the website. Chef will work after every one script, another or parallel. It will work parallelly. That's the reason of having server. Right? Yeah. What are the minimum requirements for a server? I'll come back to that. Okay. So let me finish our our dev requirements. We are doing chef development, right? I'll come back to that. Okay. So for doing these installations, what I'll do is, one thing is what we do is we go to the Google, we search for this, we download, we double click, and we click next until it says finished. Antena? Right? For the Chrome also, if you want to download, what is that you do? Google Chrome, download, double click, click next. We are going to get away from that. I want a command line way of really doing this stuff. So for that, what we do is, on our Windows machines, we'll install something called as Chocolatey. Right? You don't require Chocolatey on Mac or Linux because you already have something like Chocolatey. Right? So you go to the Google and you search for Chocolatey, you get this. Okay. You'll be getting a document around it, or you'll be getting some links around it. So just click on install Chocolatey. Right? And remember, for some of you, if you are working on older versions of PowerShell, it might fail. If you see the requirements, it wants the latest version of Power, or 2 is not a latest version, 5 is the latest version. So it expects minimum you have 2. Right? So just copy this command, open the command prompt as an administrator, and then paste this and execute it. It might fail if your PowerShell version is less than 2. How do I find out what is my PowerShell version? So launch Windows PowerShell. It will already be in your system. There is no need for you to install PowerShell. It is shipped already along with Windows. So just type ps $ps version table. So the PS version which you are seeing on your machine should be greater than 2. If it is less than 2, this will not work. Yeah. Okay. Now you click on enter. Once you have finished that work, I'm not doing it because in my machine it is already present. Just it will take some time. Close it once it is done, and from there on, once you have installed, right, you can, if you want to install any software. So for example, what is the first thing which I've asked for you? Install Git. So go over here and search for something called as Choco. You have to execute this command, Choco install Git, and try to run that from PowerShell because I want you to move to PowerShell, and then give -y. Click on enter. By the time this command is finished, Git will be installed on your machine. There is no need for you to really download, do the stuff, nothing. All right. So if you see, I want to update, let us assume that I want to update my Git version. So I'll just say Choco upgrade Git. This is for updating. Install is for installing. All right. It says that, yeah, you are not running from an elevated command line. Yeah, man. You are doing an installations, and it should always be as an administrator, run as administrator. Choco upgrade Git. For you, the command will be install. That's it. I don't do any work. This command will do the work for me. Okay. So it says you have 2.18.0, but as on today, the latest version is 2.19.2, and I'm doing the work for you. So is this the better way, or downloading and clicking the next will be a better way? Right. So this is what I want you to move on. I want you to use command line effectively. All right. And now I want Visual Studio Code. All right. So Choco okay. So it might be deprecated, it's fine, but that is more than enough for us. Just execute this command, Choco install Visual Studio Code. These are the only 2 commands which you have to install on your machine. You will get Git, you will get Visual Studio Code. Easy, right? And the best part is you can use the same Chocolatey to install Google Chrome, Firefox, any software that you want. So for example, even if you want a VLC media player, don't download the VLC media player from now. First try to search this. All right, Choco VLC media player. You will get some command. Try to use that. Even for the softwares what you use for your own entertainment or personal kind of purposes, please use Chocolatey. Right, command line is far better than using UI. Yeah, so I have just clicked on one command. There is no need for me to uninstall Git and install it again with the latest version. It is doing the work for me. That's how I want you to make use of these tools. Am I clear? Yeah. For the people who are using Linux or Mac machines, all right. So if you want to install Visual Studio Code, all right. So let me just go to the Visual Studio Code. Okay. You can install the same Visual Studio Code which I'm using in your platforms as well. You can install it on Ubuntu desktops, CentOS 7, Fedoras, right? And also on Mac, right? And you will have the installation instructions over here. Blindly follow them. Am I clear on this? All right. So for practicing, I need a AWS account, right? Because initially what we'll be doing is we will be doing a development on your laptop, which is a Windows 10 or a Windows 7, whatever you have in your laptop, right? And our nodes will be the machines in the cloud. Our nodes will be the machines in the cloud. So am I clear on that? Okay. So let me stop it at that, and now I am okay to take any question which you want. So there was some question in the beginning. What is a Chocolatey? Chocolatey is a package manager for Windows, just like apt in Ubuntu, yum in Red Hat, and brew for Mac. And if all of these things are new to you, it is a command line way of installing softwares. That's the easiest way to put it. What happens if Chocolatey, if we already have it in our system? If we install Chocolatey, if we already, it will not allow you to install. It will say that it is already present. It's okay. Yeah. What is the use of Git Bash? That we'll discuss tomorrow, because tomorrow we'll be adding our creating a Linux machine and adding it to the Chef server. So that's where we'll understand the importance of what is why do we use Git Bash, right? So Bash is nothing but a Linux terminal. I want to use the terminal to communicate to Linux. That's a, if I want to put it in a simple way, that's how I would like to put it, right? Chef server should be Linux, and we have not discussed about it, right? So let us discuss it about it tomorrow. But any configuration management server has to be a Linux server. Let it be Chef, let it be Puppet, let it be Ansible, right? Ansible might work on Mac, but not Windows servers. No. Yeah. How can I get AWS free tier account? By creating. All right. So very simple. Just go to the AWS. You have to just do this, man. This is very simple, man. AWS free tier. By the way, you'll get the mail to do that. All right. Are you saying create free account? Yes. Just click on it and continue your activity. And I am quite sure that everyone over here is capable of creating accounts. We have done Facebook account creation. We have done WhatsApp account creation, right? This is something which we are doing for our career. So we better know it. Yeah. What is the basic difference between Chef and Ansible? That is what I was being speaking about for what is the model of Chef? Push అన్నారా ఎవరన్నా మహానుభావులు, right? Chef is full model and Ansible is, that's the difference. Yeah, Ansible is push and Chef is pull, right? So who initiates the communication? That's the difference. Right. Yeah, yeah. You are speaking about greatness of Ansible, Rehan. Wonderful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay then. So there was one question, man. I had to answer it. I said I'll be answering it at the last, but let me just have it. So for the people Who have joined a bit late, please spend some time in the initials, because we have spoken about this differences, right? There was some question which I said I will be answering it at the least. So the something with respect to Python or something like that. Okay. Do we need to have a Python knowledge for DevOps? I would expect you to have a Python knowledge after DevOps, not for. If you are good at DevOps already, the next thing which you should aim for is Python. Right? Because the whole reason is you can write better scripts in Python over shell. Right? That's the only reason. And you can do some of the automations simply because even configuration managements cannot do every automation. Right? Sometimes we will be in a situation saying that, okay, so whenever someone raises a Jira ticket, I want to do something. So for Jira, we have some plugins, but there might be some of the tool which your company is using where we don't have any connectivity. So in those cases, to build these pipelines, you might need to do that activity. So that is after DevOps, not really for DevOps, right? So then you can basically move towards your complete goal of going to the production servers as well, right? Yeah. Okay. I have a Windows 7 machine. Will I be able to commence with the learning properly? I think yes, you will be able to, but ensure that you are on the writer versions of PowerShell. Writer versions of PowerShell. At least anything greater than 2, I would recommend 4. Try to install PowerShell 4 on your machine, and don't worry about Windows. I would require you to have a better Windows machine only when we are dealing with Windows DevOps. Right? At that time also, you can create your Windows machine in the cloud. So we have an alternative as a cloud. So if you are okay with using cloud, you really don't miss anything. Yeah. What is the latest approach in the industry, whether it is Ansible or Chef? See, if one was latest, I would have told only one, right? Why would I speak about both? Because both are required in its own way. Both have their own importance. All right. So there is nothing called as latest. See, it is like these are the two models. Ansible preferred push model, and Chef had moved towards. Both will have their own advantages. So in Ansible might make a claim saying that I am agentless. Yeah, I am agentless. Chef will make a claim saying that I don't need credentials. Chef Ansible ఏం చెప్తుందంటే I am agentless. I don't require agents to be installed on your machine. What Chef tells you is I don't need your credentials. Both are valid statements. All right. So to the Ansible, you have to tell your credentials. To the Chef, you don't need to tell credentials. Now you tell me which is better. Both are good in its own way. All right. So we'll discuss about those aspects in the next class, where we have discussed about the pull model, right? We will be basically speaking about Chef's architecture for that, and how do we plan about learning Chef, and what are the different things over there, right? Okay. What are drawbacks of Ansible? We not learning it correctly. There are no drawbacks, man. There are no drawbacks. All right. So I don't see any drawbacks. Okay. I don't see drawbacks of Chef also, by the way. Right. It is whether what you want, what is applied or applicable for your solution is what you have to look at. All right. So one thing might be better suited than other in one purpose. So if I have a combination of Windows and Linux machines in my deployment, Chef might be a better option. If I have all the Linux machines in my deployment, Ansible might be the better option. Right? Ansible need not have any hefty licensing costs, but Chef might have some costs. All right.